So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Radio Sophia. I am Kranti, and I'm a PhD student in economics group at IIM Calcutta. So, Radio Sophia is an online platform to discuss various socio-economic and political issues. And the Doctoral Lab series is one of key segments on Radio Sophia, which is dedicated to researchers in the fields of management and social sciences. So on this platform, we host various talks, workshops, and discussions on interesting topics, theories, and methods to facilitate learning and interaction among the PhD students and faculty and researchers even outside the academic institutions. And today in this series, we have Mr. Tanuj Chakravarti, a doctoral student at ISI Kolkata. He has just submitted his thesis as well. And so the topic we are going to discuss is forecasting macroeconometric time series, statistics and machine learning, foundation strengths and future challenges. And I now hand it over to Himadri to introduce the speaker, and also all thanks to his efforts that we could have this session with Tanuj today. And Himadri will moderate the further session. Thank you.
Thank you, Kranti, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone present. Welcome to today's session on forecasting macroeconometric time series with statistics and machine learning. A few days back, I was actually reading about Shakuntala Devi's exploits in mathematics, especially in the context of the recently released movie on her. Most of you would be aware that she was popularly called the human computer, as she could think as fast as a computer. However, in today's day and age, things have changed slightly. When the computers are trying to think as humans and gain artificial intelligence. The worry remains that computers are gradually becoming more and more intelligent and would soon rule the world. However, the detractors claim that the computers are becoming more and more stupid and have already started ruling the world. Not just the physical world, but also the world of economics. Going with the trend, we are privileged to have amidst us our distinguished speaker, Mr. Tanuj Chakravarti, to enlighten us on the application of machine learning in macroeconomics. Mr. Tanuj is a researcher and teacher of statistics and machine learning. He has submitted his PhD thesis at Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Bidhan Nagar College and a master's degree from Indian Statistical Institute. His research interest lies in non-parametric statistics, statistical machine learning, and generalized probability distributions. He was awarded the prestigious B.G. Raghavendra Memorial Award from the Operational Research Society of India in 2017. He's also the founder of the Stat and ML Lab, which is a non-profit organization aiming to provide training and research projects on statistics, data science, and machine learning. He has already published 12 research papers in top-tier statistics and interdisciplinary journals. So Tanuj, thank you for accepting our invite. And now the virtual stage is all yours. Over to you.
Thanks Himadri, and thanks Radio Sophia for inviting me on this talk. So I guess I am audible, right, to you, Himadri? You can hear me, right?
Yes, you're audible. Yeah. Perfectly audible.
So let me just start the talk with the, let me just share the screen first. So you can see the screen, right?
Audible. Yes. Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, okay. So this talk is basically based on forecasting macroeconomic time series. So I'm not from economics at all, but it's an interdisciplinary field where statistician, computer scientist, along with economics students have been delivering their works, doing some nowcasting and forecasting of time series, as well as currently COVID forecasting also is going to be challenging job, and people from statistics, economics, as well as management background, they are contributing at their best. So this talk is basically will help you to understand how to do macroeconomic focus, and we'll be always talking about some data specific problems. And the more I get into the details, I'll be going through some of the algorithms which are currently getting used on these particular problems. So I'm currently a senior research fellow, and we have recently started something called Stat and ML Lab, which is basically a non-profit organization, and we are also collaborating with a lot of students from various institutes from India as well as abroad. So let me just introduce you some basic terminologies. I guess everyone are aware of all these terminologies, but still let me just start with what is a time series. So it's a set of observations. So, but the trick is each being recorded at a specific time. Like let us consider about the annual GDP of any particular country. For India, suppose the sales figures of Amazon, some product of maybe some footwear sales, something like that. So all these are mostly discrete time series where the set of time points at which the observations we made are discrete time point. And if we consider the continuous time point, I mean when observations are made on some time intervals like ECG graph or like those which are used in medical terminologies, those are mostly continuous time series. But here we'll stick to discrete time series only. Okay. And what is forecasting? Forecasting is mainly estimating how the sequence of observations will continue into the future. So I'll give a lot of examples from unemployment rate, GDP, exchange rate, and all these macroeconomic variables. And forecasting is really a very challenging job. And since we are talking about the future, so it's gonna be very challenging. As you can see these days, people are trying to forecast COVID-19, but many of the cases the forecasts are gonna be wrong. So there are a lot of challenges in that. So let me start with the macroeconomic problem, that is foreign exchange rate. So we are taking foreign exchange rate data set from Fed economics data. So those green particular lines that indicates, actually you can click on that and you can go to that data. Okay. So in each and every slides I have marked the links of the papers as well as the data with green lines. Okay. So here is the data of Indian rupees versus US dollar year wise. Okay. So as we can see in 1975 it was somewhere $1 was somewhere around 10. Right now it is somewhere around 75. So how to forecast, like what will be the future? Maybe due to pandemic it may decrease and it may also increase. So what is gonna be challenging for us is to forecast or nowcast this particular time series data that we have with us at our hand. So this is the average of daily figures, that is the monthly data, and we are going to forecast the particular India versus US exchange rates, foreign exchange rates. So time series has several components in it. So whenever we talk about time series, this comes like there exist some patterns in the time series. So that pattern is called actually the trend, and it can be an increasing pattern, it can be a decreasing pattern, it can be something like stable pattern, something like that. So there are seasonal components as well. What do we mean by seasonal component? Like there exist some patterns in a series that is influenced by seasonal factor. Like suppose we can see, if we are going to a mall, like we used to go to a mall where you used to buy tickets. So it could be seen on weekends the ticket sale of movies is gonna be increased. Like, so it's like something on weekends, suppose our footwear sales, even the sales of some products getting increased, as well as some of the particular things are getting decreased. So all these particular patterns comes under seasonal patterns. So what are cyclical patterns? Like some disease that occurs like in suppose in winter only, or in summer only, or maybe if you consider dengue, it's mainly in the rainy season. So you can see a lot of dengue cases due to like there are a lot of waters around here, and there are a lot of problems happening with mosquitoes that time. So that's why we are getting cyclic patterns in some epidemic problems. And this particular time series means we have a data YT at period T, time period T, and if we are incurring some irregular component or error component, then any YT, any time series data can be retained as a function of this particular trend, seasonal component, cyclical component, and irregular component. So we are finally going to have a time series data with which we are getting the particular time point along with the data points, and based on that, the time series it can be decomposed into trend, seasonality, cyclical component, and irregular component. So we have two type of decomposition technique. One is additive, one is multiplicative. So additive is just summing them all, and multiplicative is multiplying them all. And in lucid term or in layman's term, a stationary time series means we have a roughly horizontal series with constant variance, and there are no patterns in the predictable. Though there are no patterns actually you are going to predict in the long run. So time series literature is mostly dedicated to particularly studying this stationary and non-stationary like divisibility of any time series. So we are going to start that, but before that, let me introduce some other models. Like additive models are mainly useful or appropriate if magnitude of seasonal fluctuations doesn't vary with level. And when we are going to deal with multiplicative models, those are useful when there are the seasonal fluctuations are proportional to level of the series. So mostly in economic time series, whatever we have done or we have studied or observed, multiplicative decomposition is more prevalent. But like we can write any multiplicative time series taking logs in terms of additive time series. Like you can see in the equation, so yt can be written as log yt equal to log tt plus log st, like in the summation form. And also people like mostly the statistician as well as the economists, they use Box-Cox transformation with the data, and then they apply additive decomposition rather than using multiplicative model, because multiplicative model has a lot of drawbacks, like getting any zero values for any particular quantity will affect the whole model, and there are a lot of other assumptions that actually like push back the multiplicative model rather than using additive models. So additive models are mostly effectively used, but like we can achieve the additivity using like log transformation in the multiplicative model. So this talk is mainly based on a paper that we recently published in Computational Economics, the paper titled as Unemployment Rate Forecasting, a Hybrid Approach, co-authored by Ashish Chakravarti, Munmun Vishwas, Shayak Banerjee, and Shramana Bhattacharya. So the last few people, they have been our students, they are working their MSc projects with me. So let me start the unemployment rate forecasting problem. So unemployment has always been a very focused issue, like it is really causing a nation as a whole to lose its economic and financial contribution. So unemployment rate forecasting for a country is a crucial factor for its economic development, financial growth planning, as well as that's gonna be pretty helpful for government policymakers as well. So what do we mean by unemployment rate? We mean the number of unemployed people as a percentage of the labor force. So what do we mean by forecasting unemployment rate? We mean that it can be thought of as the projected value for the number of unemployment as a percentage of the future labor force. So there have been a lot of statistical as well as machine learning model has been previously employed for understanding the unemployment rate and forecasting them. And this particular unemployment rate data set, I'll show you some examples. Those are mostly non-stationary and non-linear in nature, and that's make them really beautiful and challenging for us to forecast. And it is really difficult to assume that any particular time series model is gonna generate a white noise error. Like when do we really model any time series or any particular regression type model? We have yi equal to fxi plus ei. What we are going to do, we are going to get some ei that is going to be white noise or following IID normal with mean 0 and sigma square as variance, like constant variance. But like it is very difficult for a particular time series model or for any single time series model to really generate any white noise error. So that's the challenge of unemployment rate forecasting. So we actually have worked with more than 10 data sets. In paper also we have given the results for 7 to 8 data sets, but here I am going to stick for 4 particular those unemployment data sets, and these data sets are collected from Fed economic data sets and OECD data repository. So you can go to click on both of these links and go to these data sets, and there are a lot of macroeconomic variable data sets that are available for various countries. Maybe for unemployment data for India, it's not available. So if you are going to look for India's unemployment data, that's gonna be another challenge for you. So this is the graphical or pictorial view of the time series data. As you can see, the training data set for Canada, Germany, Japan, Netherlands, these are mostly non-stationary, non-linear in nature. So how can we pictorially view that? So we can see the mean and the variance is going to change over time, and as well as there are some fluctuations in the time series. There are not any specific deterministic trend in the data set, as well as the ACF plot and PCF plots. They are also suggesting the time series is not stationary in nature. So but like in paper, we actually do lot of such tests for stationarity, linearity, and then we do test for like long-term memory of the time series. We do test for deterministic term in the time series. But like here, I'm restricting for the pictorial view of the time series, so that you can basically understand if these data sets are not really stationary and linear in nature, so that we can really opt for ARIMA or ETS, all these basic models available in time series, and we have to look for advanced time series models. So so this is very important for all the people who are really working as a PhD student. It's very important for us to go for literature study. So I have also given the links of the papers in these slides, so that you can directly go there and study from there. So some previous dominant work in the area of unemployment net forecasting are done by Funke. They have obtained, they have utilized ARIMA model for unemployment rate forecasting of German unemployment data. But that was done in 1992. Then people moved to TAR model, threshold autoregressive model. That's a nonlinear model that's incorporating nonlinearities into AR framework, and you are going to get a more complex model, but useful for training any nonlinear time series data. And they obtained better forecast for USA unemployment data set, and that work was done by Montgomery and published in JASA. Then people came up with this new neural network type of models, which are really buzzwords in these days. And like people like Pilaes in Business Economics Journal, they have obtained ANN model is really suitable to forecast US, Canada, UK, France, Japan, all this unemployment rate. And then in a very recent paper done by Nagao in Finance Research Letter, they have obtained the unemployment data are really very challenging, and there is an asymmetry in unemployment data set, and forecasting it really difficult, and elimination of those asymmetry is really going to be challenging. And that's a beautiful study you can go through. And a very recent paper before our work was done, so that got published in Computational Economics in 2020 by Curtis. He is also a postdoc fellow in Greece. So he obtained fractional ARIMA model or FARIMA or ARFIMA model is really useful, so that this unemployment data set, they have long memory property. So if we calculate the Hurst exponent for this time series data set, we can see the Hurst exponents are gonna be greater than 0.8 or 0.7. So what does that mean? It means the time series data set really contain long-term memory. So for that, we have some improvised version of ARIMA model, that is ARFIMA or FARIMA, like fractional autoregressive integrated moving average model, and he used that for training a lot of unemployment data. So these are very like basic studies, and you can really go for them and see them how they have worked on times forecasting for unemployment. So I really think you guys are already known to these techniques like ARIMA or ANN, but still I will just go through all these techniques once again, so that you don't face any difficulty in understanding the later literatures that I'll be talking. So ARIMA model was first introduced by two statisticians, Box-Jenkins. So it's a linear regression type model. We have previous values of time series as like autoregressive term, AR term, lagged observations as inputs, like previous value yt minus 1 to yt minus k, like that. And integrated means if the series is not stationary, we are going to input some differencing term in the series and make it stationary. And MA means the moving average or lagged error as inputs. So the full ARIMA model can be written with the three parameters. P gonna be the term based on ARP model, Q gonna be the term based on MAQ model, and D is the my differencing term. So YT is written as a summation form of theta1 plus theta, sum over theta I YT minus I plus sum or minus sum over theta j or phi j into epsilon t minus j. So it's a time series. YT is the actual value, ET my error terms, and all these thetas are gonna be estimated based on some particular parameter estimation techniques. So we can employ MLE based techniques or like maximum likelihood based techniques to find out what is gonna be our theta1 or phi 1, all these terms. And ARIMA model makes one particular assumption, that is the error terms of ARIMA model, that is YT minus YT hat, that is gonna follow normal 0, sigma square. So if that condition is not met, that means my ARIMA model has failed to really forecast that particular time series. And ARIMA model can be done in particularly 3 steps. So one is model identification. You have to identify what is gonna be your P. You can calculate that from the ACF plot that I have shown you in earlier slides. You can calculate the Q term from the PACF plot, and the D term can be obtained based on some stationarity check, that is some ADF, augmented Dickey-Fuller test, KPSS test, and based on that you can find out what is gonna be your D, whether there exists any D or not. Then the parameter estimation, you can do it by maximum likelihood estimation or other estimation techniques, Bayesian estimation techniques as well. So based on that, you are gonna finally find out these particular parameters like theta I, these coefficients of the model. And then the diagnostic checking, finally you after modeling the time series based on some ARIMA PDQ model, then you are finally going to find out the error distribution, whether that follows normal or not. And then you are going to check some particular metrics like MAP, RMSC, MSC, all these components, and then finally find out how good your forecast is. So that's what ARIMA model is. Then let me move to artificial neural network models. So we are going to give.
Tonujit, sorry to interrupt. Yes. There's a particular question I just thought it should be raised right away so that it gets addressed early on. There's a question on what is ACF and PACF model. Could you share a couple of lines on that?
No, ACF, PACF are plots. Okay. So, autocorrelation function plot and partial autocorrelation function plot. Okay. So these plots by ACF and PACF plot, I mean these particular plots. Based on that, if we see the above this particular threshold, we can get maybe 2 particular values for Canada data. So that means the P to be chosen for ARIMA model is gonna be 2. Okay, based on PACF plot, you are going to get the value of Q. So that's what the usefulness of this ACF PACF plot. There we actually plot the autocorrelation function versus the lag time series, means lagged values. Okay. So yeah, so Himadri, let me just move on to the next slide. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So now we give as input the previous lagged values like YT minus 1 as input 1, YT minus 2 as input 2, like YT minus 3 as input 3, like that. We can give an input of some particular previous time series values, and based on that previous values we can create one hidden layer that will be one particular summation of some coefficient as well as the sigmoidal function of the particular hyperplane generated based on the previous values. So I am not going into the mathematical details of particular ANN model right now because I will be explaining some other modified neural network model in the next slide. So neural networks are actually composed of input, hidden layer and output layer. So you can think of your brain. So I am going to give you some input. Your brain is going to finally calculate some of the particular things based on whatever I am going to say. and they're storing some of my inputs in your brain, and that's gonna generate you some output, like you are going to ask some question, or you are going to remember some of them and use it for your future work. So that's what a particular neural network works, or particular about how our brain works. The mathematical modeling of that is gonna getting created by this neural network model. So, but like for time series forecasting, we are not going to use this particular ANN model. So we have some better model for time series forecasting based on feed-forward neural net, which is called ARNN model, or autoregressive neural network model. It was created by Faraway and Chatfield. They are very big names in the field of time series. They have written several books on time series, and it got published in JRS's journal. So it has the positive points, like it overcomes the drawbacks of ANN and creates a nice framework for time series forecasting using neural net. So ANN model applies one hidden layer. This is my hidden layer. Suppose phi is any activation function, and this is my like combination of the
Tanuja?
I think we have just lost his connection. We'll wait for it.
Yes. Okay. Tanujit, are you able to hear me? I think you have to unmute your microphone. Himadri, are you able to talk? I see you are on mute. Are you able to unmute your microphone? Yeah. Okay.
Wait, I'll just call him. Wait.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience, guys. Please hold on for a couple of minutes. We're trying to contact the speaker.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. It got
It's okay.
disconnected.
No problem. Yeah. Are you able to
Acha.
share your screen?
Yes. No, I'm not. So
One second. I'll make you co-host. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Now you should be able to. Can you check?
So yeah. So
Right.
So I was here, right? Like explaining this particular slide. After that, you couldn't hear, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in artificial neural network, we have one advanced version of artificial neural network for time series forecasting, what we call as autoregressive neural network. And there we are going to get put some parameters like p equal to number of previous lag values, or the y that is going to be chosen from the SCF plot. For a particular time series, we create the SCF plot. Based on the SCF plot, we are going to get ARP model, that p particular value from the ARP model, and that is we are going to plug in into the ARN model, and k is chosen as p plus 1 by 2. for non-seasonal data. For seasonal data, we are going to use another term, P plus K plus 1 by, not K, like some M plus 1 by 2, where M is my seasonal term. So this is the better framework than ANN model, and this was obtained by Fairway and Chatfield, and this has been pretty much used in time series literature right now. And this has one inbuilt function in R, so that you can apply and check for any particular time series you have with you. So that function is called NNETAR. NNETAR. Okay. So what is the motivation? Like, we have all this ARIMA model, ANN model, then there came ARNN model, then there are FARIMA model, SARIMA model, and a lot of other time series models are there. So there have been some issue with this particular models, so that we went for some hybrid techniques. Okay. So a forecaster really want to generate like IID random chalks or like random errors from the ARIMA model, but it is really difficult to generate IID random error from the ARIMA model because of the nature of the time series data set, or the like unpredictable nature or the complexity of the time series data set that we really have currently. So we do not really apply ARIMA model and generate forecast, and the errors going to be random sorts. So it's very difficult. So to address this, we are going to develop some hybrid methodologies based on ARIMA and neural network models. So due to model misspecification and disturbances introduced in the time series, we really cannot have those white noise assumption to be happening with ARIMA model. And for that, we are going to create some hybrid models that is going to incorporate ARIMA as well as the neural network models in a integrated framework, so that we can generate better forecast. So there are various hybrid models available in the literature. So there are papers in neurocomputing, Omega, and neural processing letters. That's a review paper. You can see there are a lot of hybrid models were available previously in the literature. And there have been a particular statement by one of the best forecaster of 1990s, Kleeman. He stated that the results have been virtually unanimous, and combining multiple forecasts really gonna help you to increase the forecast accuracy. So in many cases, one can make drastic performance improvement by simply averaging forecast. Like if you have ARIMA forecast, if you have neural network forecast, just average them. You may get sometimes you are going to get the better forecast. So that may happen if you choose the particular algorithms very properly, or the models if you choose the models properly. So based on that, we developed one particular hybrid approach that I'm going to present it here. So an integrated approach we have developed based on linear and nonlinear time series model, and that is applied to data set from Canada, Germany, Japan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Switzerland, Sweden, all these unemployment data set. And here we have assumed that the time series can really be thought of as a combination of linear and nonlinear components. So just like in previous slides, we have thought of time series can be decomposed as trend, seasonality, cyclical component, and irregular component. Here we have assumed that any particular time series can be decomposed within as a summation or product of linear component as well as the nonlinear component. So we can have one particular additive model based on that, L plus N, and we can have one multiplicative model based on that, which is L cross N. So in the first portion of the time series, we have a time series data. We apply one ARIMA model on that particular time series data, and we generate the ARIMA forecast as well as the ARIMA residuals. We check whether the ARIMA residuals are really following the random errors or not. If it is not following, then those residuals are stored in another place, and those residuals are again modeled by ARNN model. So it's a really remodeling the error terms, right? So we have one generated forecast based on ARIMA, and ARIMA errors are kept as another time series, and those are going to be again forecasted based on ARNN model. And finally, we are going to combine all these two forecasts. Like if we take errors can be calculated in two ways. We can get additive error, we can get multiplicative errors. So whatever we are doing, based on that, we are going to add those particular forecasts, or we are going to multiply those particular forecasts to generate the final forecast. So that was like the idea that we have used in this paper. So let me just tell the idea in a better manner or in a like graphical approach. So we have one particular time series data set with us. We are going to generate one ARIMA model. Based on that, we are going to generate case step ahead forecast, as well as the residuals are stored in another like place. And then these residuals are again going to be forecast based on a ARNN model. And then we are going to generate case step ahead forecast again. And then we are going to sum this or product this particular case step ahead forecast. And based on that, we are going to get the final forecast. So this is one particular error remodeling approach that we have enhanced in this paper, and we have proposed two such things like additive approach and multiplicative approach. So the framework is pretty easy, and anyone can really, if you have any particular time series data, you can directly apply that, and we have our codes available in GitHub so that you can directly give your data and generate the result based on our models. And this is the multiplicative framework. Here we only assume that YT to be LT plus NT, then we calculate the error terms as ZT minus YT hat or LT hat actually, my mistake here. So for multiplicative time series, we are going to generate ET as ZT by LT hat. Okay, so there is a mistake here in calculation of ET. It will be minus LT hat. Okay, so these are the two approaches that we proposed in this particular paper. So, and the approaches are very easy. Like if one can really understand ARIMA model and ARNN model, they can really punch, or they can also punch any two particular, one linear model time series model and one non-linear time series model. So if you can also try like applying ARIMA and then applying, suppose that particular thing like SETAR or TAR model, threshold autoregressive model or ACTAR model. Okay, then combine them in this particular framework like we did, like additive as well as multiplicative hybridization technique. So this is the general framework for the model, and then we studied a lot of theoretical properties. Not lot, like we studied the asymptotic behavior of the time series. What do we mean by asymptotic behavior in time series? We mean like asymptotic stationarity. So if you are really going to get a long-term time series or a very large time series, can we really going to have our error terms within a particular range, or like we cannot really incur errors to be unbounded errors? So based on that, to show that we statisticians really are interested about asymptotic stationarity of any time series models. So we have proved the asymptotic stationarity of our proposed hybrid approach, and that involves a lot of mathematics. So I'm not going to get into the details of that because we have a lot of students from MSc as well as the PhD. So the basic intuition, how do we really do that? So we are going to finally show geometric arithmeticity of any time series or stochastic process or the Markov chain at hand, the time dependent Markov chain. So we are going to show the conditional probability distribution approaching to its true distribution or the stationary distribution. So this is what the limit calculates. This is the conditional probability. This is the stationary distribution. So the probability measure pi a. So we have finally obtained the the asymptotic stationarity of the model happening when the error terms have movements, higher order movements, existence of the higher order movements. This is the error term of ARNN model, some xi, and we are going to calculate a expectation of mod of xi to the power 1 plus delta greater than 0 or 1. In this case 1, so we can obtain the if this is going to happen, so the error terms must be having higher order movements, then we are going to have the asymptotic stationarity of the proposed hybrid ARIMA ARNN model. And there is a famous result. Those who are interested in theoretical study, they really are gonna see our paper as well as this particular paper by Chen and Tong in Advances in Applied Probability. That actually tells us about if we are going to show any particular Markov chain is going to be geometric ergodic, then that is also called asymptotic stationarity. They have given some necessary and sufficient conditions for that. And this result is going to guarantee that the proposed hybrid model cannot really have growing variance with time. So, but like I'm not going to get into the details of that because the application is more interesting in economics rather than these theoretical questions. So we are going to show those applications. So I think you all know the time series model adequacy check, like done by MAE, MAP, RMSE, all these particular models, particular metrics. So by definition, the less the value of this matrix, the better the performance of the concerned forecasting model. So we applied our model along with other models in the data sets of Canadian unemployment rate, German unemployment rate, and we could really see we could gain the gain was significant. Like other models could have 0.118, we could get 0.106 as RMSE in particularly in Canadian unemployment rate data sets, and we generated 1 year, 3 year forecast. 1 year means 12.8 forecast, 3 year means 36.8 forecast, since we have data sets of monthly unemployment data. So these results are really motivating for us, because the unemployment rate models previously used have been ARIMA, FARIMA, and some particularly year-in and year-in, all these models. We could really generate some hybrid model based on ARIMA and year-in that can really generate better forecast for unemployment rates. So these are the for test data sets. So we took 12 and 36 points as test data sets from this particular time series, and we really have these black lines as the actual values of the time series for the test data, and these are particular reddish lines are like our pink lines are our the forecast generated by our models. So what merits and demerits we are going to incur in this model? So first, we have assumed that we can really think a time series as a summation or product of linear and non-linear component. So is this gonna, if it is going to happen, then we are going to get an edge using our model. But if you really get some model where this assumption doesn't hold, we are not going to get good forecast than ARIMA or individual models. So the better thing is, like, when you are going to get ARIMA models errors to be random shocks, then you are not going to use this particular hybrid model. Okay, so and in reality, it's really difficult to understand whether a time series is generated from linear underlying process or non-linear underlying process. There are a lot of tests for that. For linearity, there are a lot of such tests based on Lagrange multiplier. So you can check those tests. You can apply statistical test, and based on that you can determine. So multiplicative method is more appropriate when explaining variation of economic and business data, but I told you the challenges with multiplicative models, right? If we have any zero value which is going to deviate, like the model may not work, and there are a lot of assumptions in multiplicative model. So better let us work with additive model and do some log transformation or box transformation. So then, like this particular time series work, what we presented, that has some problem when we are really not going to separate between these linear and non-linear patterns of a time series, and then the combining will have the problem. So that may also happen. So we have in our paper, we have addressed this issue, like we are going to work with data sets which are particularly non-linear and non-stationary in nature. So we have tested that, and based on that we have worked on the particularly this Canada, Germany, all these particular unemployment data sets where this particular assumption really holds. Okay, so right now I have talked about our work. Let me give you some work which you can really do. Okay, so that's gonna be challenging, and that's the future work of our works. Okay, so this is suggestion by Rob Hinman, like the famous forecaster from Australia. So he told for annual data set there are a lot of models, but exponential smoothing state space model, that is innovative state space model, ETS model, that's going to be useful LSTM here. And these models you can use for modeling or forecasting annual time series data. For quarterly data sets, these are the models, and weekly data set, ARIMA, dynamic regression, and we have something called seasonal and trend decomposition using Loess method. So that's gonna be useful for this particular model. So I know you guys must be having some time series data set at hand, and you are really you may be really stuck to some place, what model I am going to use. So these are like really going to help you in future to choose particular models, and you can also generate some hybrid model based on that. And other than this hybrid approach, what we proposed here, there are other hybrid approaches available in the literature, that is called bagging and ensemble time series approaches. So there is a book called Hands-on Ensemble Learning. The chapter 11 is that this is particularly, all references I am giving are mostly applied in nature, so anybody can read them, just go through them. It's written in very easy manner. And there is another approaches that statisticians have developed called Bayesian model averaging approaches. You have 2-3 models and you average them in a probabilistic manner, and putting uncertainty into those models. So that have been addressed in Benchley et al. Paper that came in Empirical Economics. So you can read these particular approaches also and create your own approaches. Okay. So what is takeaway from this talk? Like after this talk, you are going to work on some. I'm assuming you are going to work some time series data, and you are going to use some of these approaches, and you are going to develop some of new approaches maybe. So those who are at least PhD students, they are going to work on that. So the future challenges are going to be something like that. On an average, we got some based short-term forecast and long-term forecast based on our models, but there are a lot of time series data sets of macroeconomic variables like this unemployment rate, exchange rates, GDP. They are really very much sarcastic in nature. Like they do not have any consistent trends or deterministic trends. So finding the forecast is very challenging. So you can work on some extension of this. Our work for seasonal time series, we have only worked with seasonally adjusted time series. So we don't need to really apply SARIMA, seasonal ARIMA, or some other model based on seasonal time series data sets. So you can really improve our paper for the seasonal time series data sets, and you can really improve our paper for multivariate time series forecasting. So in case of suppose GDP has a lot of effects. GDP depends on a lot of exogenous random variables. So you have a lot of exogenous macroeconomic variables which actually have impact on GDP. So whenever you are going to forecast GDP, you take all these exogenous variable as some external variables in your time series. So then you generate some forecast. That's what we call multivariate time series forecasting, and you can really improve our paper for macroeconomic problems. Like ARIMA have been improved on multivariate setup that is called VARMA model, VRMA, or ARIMA X model. ARIMA X is better, in a better manner. We can really created some our toolbox for ARIMA X model, ARIMA with some exogenous variables. So there are also scope to design new hybrid ensemble Bayesian model averaging techniques for macroeconomic forecasting variables. And really this area has to be addressed, because those who are working on forecasting, either they are statisticians or they are from computer science background, and they are working on some data sets from other disciplines. But really macroeconomic forecasting has got an edge after 1990s. Okay, so this is still one fertile area, like where you can really invest your time and really gonna come some new models, some new interpretable models which are gonna be useful for future econometricians as well as the time series forecasters in economics discipline. So this is a particular book that I have followed in studying forecasting. This is a practical book. There are no theories given there. This is mostly the basic model intuition as well as the merits, demerits, as well as the R applications are given in this book. This is really a nice reading, and I am also having this book with me right now as well. And based on this book, Rob Hinman created some slides for teaching forecasting to business and economic students. So that he usually teaches to MBA student as well as the BSc economics and BCom students. So these slides are going to be useful for you. Those are very practical in nature, and try to use this particular book. This is available free in this particular link. Okay, so that's all from my talk, and I guess it will really open some new avenue, new research area for all of you. And I'm also ready to collaborate if you have some problem in macroeconomic time series at your hand, you are a PhD student or even an MSc student from some universities or institutes in India or abroad. So feel free to ask whatever questions you have in your mind, and that's all from my side. So thank you very much for calling me in this talk. So right now let us take some questions. Okay.
Thank you, Tonojit, for the wonderful presentation. So we have few questions with us.
Yes. So,
yeah, the first question comes from Arun Rajesh. He asks, what is the R package being used for the autoregressive neural network model?
NETAR. Okay, I'm writing the answer in chat box. Okay.
Yeah,
The function is called NETAR function. Okay, done. What is the next question?
Okay. There's a question on a particular step of your slide which Srishti Grover is not clear with. Probably she can refer to which slide she's asking. The next question by the same person, Arun, is do we need to take a log transformation and apply ARIMA? I have used forecast package from Rob Hindman. I don't know. I mean, the question
No. The transformation are not really taken on a regular basis. Like the time series dataset we took, the values of the unemployment rate for these developed countries lies between something 3 to 10. The range is, if you see, the range is 3 to 10. Then you need not to have any log transformation. Log transformation means when we have big values, like we have particular suppose the sales figures. So it is 10,000 to some 10 lakhs. Then you can take log transformation and work. So it's like when you have very high values and the range is very difficult to address. So then you take log transformation. Otherwise, this particular log 1.0 that won't make any sense, right? Log 2, 3, all this won't make any sense. So yeah, that's what my answer is. The transformations are not really always taken. That's based on the time series dataset that you are having with you. Yeah.
Okay, next question is which model is to be used when we have many exogenous factors other than Arimidex?
Arimidex, yeah. So you can use that NNAR that have framework for exogenous modeling, as well as right now these days people are using LSTM. So that's a deep learning model. That's a recurrent neural network model. So that has also inbuilt feature to address those exogenous variable into its time series nature. So other than Arimidex, you can definitely go for ARNN that I have talked about, and then you can use LSTM model. Those are machine learning models, and they are really performing well for large scale data sets. Mostly, like if you have very short term data set, then go for ARNN. If you have large amount of data set, go for LSTM. Okay.
Okay. The next question is: any model could you suggest for sales demand forecasting?
Sales demand forecasting. I recently I have seen one paper in neural computing and application that usually applied a neural network model for this sales forecasting. So why not you try something like Bayesian model averaging of that, or hybridizing, like we proposed some hybridizing based on some other models. So time series forecasting is purely data centric. Okay, so it's not like any particular data set. If you cannot show me, I cannot tell. Like it's like I'm a doctor and you are asking me what medicines should I take if I have this. But like if you are really not going to show this is my particular disease, I'm not Bidhan Chandra Rai. Okay, so that's what the problem is. Like, it's a data dependent thing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There's some question on maybe throwing some light on consumer predictive analysis and behavior analytics forecasting models using ML.
I haven't really checked on consumer predictive modeling things. Maybe you can see. I guess Hinman in Hinman's talk, Hinman has given one example of Australia's beer production. He worked with Australia's beer production data sets. So he used there particularly, as I remember, ETS model and STAR model, Shwetar model, all this model he has used. So why not you check that and come up with something? Okay, that's gonna be that.
Okay.
Then someone asked us which one is better for time series forecasting. Spaces are matter. I'm an R guy, okay, so I can code in R only. So, but like I don't think all those packages have really difficult, suppose in R, AutoArima uses something else, and in other Python maybe AutoArima may use some other particular terminology. But like I really believe you should really check the package details before applying. So other than you are understanding that package, what is it's actually doing, or whether it is really doing what you are going to tell it to do. Like if I am telling some package to do Arima, I will have to check how the parameters are going to be estimated in that package, what are the functions it is going to use, whether that functions are relatable to my particular Arima model that I have read or I am going to study. So based on that, you use some packages. Yeah, I mean, any platform you can apply.
Okay, so
Time
Prateek
is not.
asked, yeah, Prateek's question
Yeah.
is this model only specific for unemployment data?
No. We maybe we have recently did one particular work for COVID forecasting, where we modified this particular model and we use Arima plus web-based Arima model for forecasting COVID. And yeah, it's really getting good citations these days because it's got published like in April or May perhaps, and it's getting 40-50 citations till date. So it's not this idea is not specific to unemployment data. You can really work on any other data sets which must be having non-stationarity and non-linearity.
Okay, next question is, please mention if any specific optimization tools are useful for working on a specific business or any problem.
So you have to specify the problem, otherwise how can I really tell? But usually optim function is going to be used in our for generating the optimal value of the parameters in many of the cases, and backpropagation is used in neural networks. But if you are asking about any word-based algorithm used in there or not, so you have to tell me the problem, then I can tell whether any word algorithms are relatable to your work or not. So maybe you can write it to me, your problem, if it's at least the brief of the problem you can write and I can address that.
Okay, and the next one is more on the short. Since these economic variable time series is not very long as compared to stock prices data, can we use Gaussian processes?
Yes, we can really use Gaussian processes, but we really couldn't get good results for that. So we have used random walks, we have used naive-based method, we have used Gaussian forecasting techniques, hierarchical forecasting techniques. All these failed, maybe due to the absence of long-term series in this particular data sets, because the Hurst coefficient was near 0.5 to 0.6. So it was not really above 0.75 or something like that. So maybe that could be applied, but we didn't get good results. That's why we didn't report it in the paper. Can you use volatility model? Yeah, definitely. We didn't address that because we took seasonally adjusted data set, and the heteroscedastic variance term we didn't assume, and we didn't go for those particular model like Sheta, TAR, all this, or Garch, Arch, all this type of models, because we were addressing univariate time series data without seasonal term, and having we need to address the nonlinearity and non-stationarity was our priority. So based on the priority, we really did that.
Okay. The next is on for energy forecasting.
Yeah. The best models. Okay. So energy forecasting. So yeah, I am again telling these are really like data specific. You have to really apply the model, then you can only find out. It's not that I have one P65, suppose paracetamol 650. In Bengal we use it, or in India we use it something like disease. So we take P65 and some other drugs. So we are going to be fine if we have any disease. And forecasting is not like that. So okay, so I have given one slide particularly which talks about some short-term, medium-term, and long-term forecast models. You can use all those models in your data sets as well as our hybrid models and other hybrid models, as I mentioned, and refer to some particular books where those quotes are given as well as the implementations. So you apply and you explore. Okay. And the quotes of this slides like talk is available in my website. The website link is given in the first slide. So I'm going to again give the link of this particular slide. so that you can really use it and download it and see, explore all the other things.
Okay.
Any other
I have couple of questions a bit basic in form. While we are using econometrics I mean, we generally come across three kinds of data sets: cross-sectional, panel, and time series. So,
Yes.
I mean, you primarily talked about machine learning comparing it with time series.
Only time series data, and today I have only discussed about univariate time series forecasting. So this is the first session, so I cannot go for multivariate.
So it can be used even for the panel data, right?
You have to modify it in a bigger manner. Okay, so for panel data we have the geographical locations, right? So this model cannot directly be used for panel data. You have to incorporate some terms in the models that which are going to address your panel term, means the geographical or the location based things. Okay, so you have to really modify this particular model for panel data. So for panel data you cannot directly do that, right?
Right. And how useful is actually machine learning for estimation purpose? I understand it's useful for forecasting, but how is it useful for estimation?
So recently people are going to use it for regression estimation. So we have lot of paper, neural networks as a model of regression estimation in 2020 annals of stat. So it talks about the estimation things, but with lot of restrictions it's working. Okay, so in case of estimating, if estimation mean expectation of y given x, we are going to estimate suppose in regression. So yi equal to some fxi plus ei, so we are going to estimate the expectation of yi given xi. So that particular things are feasible with neural net, because if we really address some of the issues, we take y to be expectation of y to be less than infinity, we take expectation of y squared to be less than infinity, and some assumption on x's, then we can really estimate based on these neural networks. So if even I have in my thesis work, I have worked on regression estimation based on statistical machine learning. So those paper actually addresses regression estimation problem.
Okay.
So someone asked us, Himadri.
Continue. You answer that.
Yeah. Someone asked, are decision trees good choice to be used as estimators? So XGBoost people are these days using XGBoost. In XGBoost framework, they are incorporating all these particular neural network, ARIMA, ETS, STR, all this model together and generating some forecast. But if you are talking about classification and regression tree on random forest, they are not really highly useful for time series datasets. Because if you break a time series dataset, something like that, suppose when time was like x1, suppose for this particular unemployment data, if my xt is greater than 6.5, then going left to right, then xt is less than 5 going to left to right, then we will be having issue with local minima. So in the leaf nodes, there will be local minima will stick to some values and it won't move, right? So because it's a univariate set of it's very difficult to generate good forecast based on decision tree, because within a particular threshold you will be always getting one single value averaging. So that's why people do not usually use decision tree and random forest for forecasting, but they are using XGBoost and they are incorporating all these statistical and neural network based model and generating forecast.
There's another question.
So,
yes. On biomass potential estimation for a country, what is the suitable model?
So as I said, I have to see the data, or at least the variable I have to see and its range. So you have to show me your x's, your y, and the maximum value of all the x's, minimum values of all the x's, and y's. Then only I can comment on that. Okay. So it's like suggesting some model, but without seeing the data, it's like just hawa mein tir marna ki jaisa hai. So I cannot really do that.
But by the way, in this paper where you're forecasting unemployment, I presume this paper was written much before COVID, right? So, so did you kind of compare the MAPE after COVID?
So in COVID paper, actually, we compared this model with the COVID paper model that I talked about, ARIMA plus wavelet ARIMA model. So we changed with ARNN with wavelet ARIMA, because there we found out this particular model was not working well. Okay.
Correct.
So for COVID forecasting, because there was some issue with COVID datasets. So COVID dataset is really more typical than this particular data, because it's like you can see some of the datasets are really increasing day by day, and somewhere it's decreasing for 2-3 days and then again increasing. So it's not very. It has some stochastic trend. To understand the stochastic trend, even we applied some compartmental model or mathematical model that is called SIR, susceptible and infected and recovered. Then those are epidemiological models along with ARIMA and wavelet ARIMA we have introduced, and we created one framework for COVID forecasting. So yeah, so but like this paper actually got accepted earlier, right, before our COVID paper. Yeah.
True. Anyways, so I mean, it was a great discussion, and I presume most of us have benefited from it.
I have given them the slide link, so I guess they have gone through that. And this is my mail ID. I'm going to type it here so that you just copy that and keep it with you. In case if you have some problem, maybe vegans, he asks, he or she, I don't know, he asks something, I'm working on this. Yeah. So yeah, please mention me the variables as well as the maximum and minimum values, and maybe average, mean and variance, all this. And I can understand. Oh yeah, it's she. Okay. Please mention. It's that. Okay. So yeah, I'm confused again. Okay. Anyway, so if you have any other questions, please do mail me. I am available on mail. So and I have also uploaded all these slides, whatever talk I used to give, to my website, so you can see all of them there. Okay. And I'm very thankful to IIM Calcutta students. So I didn't get a lot of questions from IIM Calcutta students. So I was hoping they would ask a lot of questions.
No, there were a few.
Maybe
I think there were
there are a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am from IIM Calcutta, so I kind of compensated.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for the talk. Over to you, Kranti.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Tanujit, for taking time and giving this talk. It was very exhaustive, and for a lot of us, we have done some parts of the ARIMA model, etc., but we would not be doing it like how a statistics student does it. So in that case,
it's not like statistics students. Most of the economic students there also.
Right. Yeah. No, because we have non-economic students also, other management discipline students, etc. So
that's also fine.
Yeah,
that's also fine.
Yeah, so that's how it's been really interesting. The talk
area is for everyone.
Yeah,
everyone can really work on.
Right. So thank you very much, and this talk will be uploaded on YouTube, Radio Sophia channel. Also tomorrow we have another talk morning at 11 a.m. It's on secularism and independent India by Professor Haragopal. So those of you who are interested can join the talk. So thank you again.
And also I just wanted to add that
with the students, so that they can also join in your next talks. Just some mail ID or some information, so that they can join.
Yes, so I have just written down in the chat box. So we have an email ID, radiosophia2020@gmail.com, but we also have a Facebook page and YouTube channel, so where we keep posting the updates of the upcoming events. So you can find them all there. So please fill up the Google form that was shared in the chat. So we will try and keep emailing whenever there's an interesting event. Yeah, Himadri, please.
By the way, we have another machine learning session which is slated to come at around 24th or 25th of this month. That will be basically a comparison between traditional econometrics and machine learning, and that will be taken by an economics student herself.
Okay, great. So please inform all the people who are really attending this talk. Okay.
Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good
day. Thank you.
Bye.
All the best.